Siddha-Vetha webinar series for discussing about changing the education system in India. And why do we really need to change the education system in India? And how is this affecting a person like me who is in the United States running an institute? Yes, it does. We almost discuss every day about this. So let us look into the current education system. So when India got independence, the current education system was based on the colonized version of the British system, and it has its own advantage, but it has spoiled or completely neglected the ancient knowledge and wisdom that was given by several sage scientists. We call them sage scientists because what is the difference between a scientist and a sage scientist? All this knowledge that we have today come from mostly the Western scientists. So before separation of the science from religion in the West, it was all mixed up. Science and religion was mixed up, and there was a confusion between what is science and religion, and that's the path Aristotle took. And then they separated religion, which Copernicus took, and that is what we call it as science today. And it's completely based on the Western system. So there is nothing wrong in the way it is structured. It is good for the West. So Western education may be good for the West, but it is not globalized. So we need to understand that there are various traditions in the world. So we have Mayans, the Egyptians, the Middle East, the Chinese tradition, Native Americans, and many other traditions. If you look at today, the oldest traditions, the Ayurveda tradition in India, we have two traditions, the Siddha traditions. They're the oldest traditions. And these traditions have been completely neglected. So several thousands of people have contributed to science and technology, but none of these are used in the education system. And remember, many of the traditional knowledge only turned into modern science and technology. And many of them were copied or even stolen from different traditions, but the traditions were not given the credit. So it's high time now we recognize that and change at least the Indian education system. And it's equally important the world also recognize other traditions at some point. But this tradition has so many things to offer for the current world, and we need to develop a curriculum. And this curriculum cannot be a curriculum that can be neglected by an atheist or a theist. It is something that both can accept. Something that if it's a Brahminic system and something like a Periyar-ism or communism, both should accept a curriculum. So that is the strategy that we're talking about here. So if we are trying to bring Vedic science as it is in today's structure, because I have attended many of the conferences, Vedanta conference and other conferences, this is not more acceptable by people in the Dravidian tradition, and because they have the own Siddha based, and it's where there is a huge difference between these two in terms of how they present it. And there are more abstract concepts and scientific concepts involved in Siddhanta, but both are scientific, the Vedanta and Siddhanta. But if you neglect the Siddhanta, you basically will only be able to give the religion part of the science. So we need to develop a new formula, a new set of axioms to develop this science. And that can be done very easily today with the number of experts that we have, and people who are out of the school system, like many of the Siddha doctors, Ayurveda doctors, many alternative practitioners. They are already doing wonderful work, and they are already starting to teach things many independently, and none of this are in a format that is in the education that can be accepted by the education system. So we need to develop using the modern people who have the modern education, and they have to really understand the ancient education system, and it's their responsibility. And once they understand how the ancient system is structured, we need to develop that syllabus according to that. And many things will be different than what we think the current system is. So we should start from the LKG level. How do we do at an LKG level? Can we do something like a Thirukural, or can we do something like a Vedanta subject in the LKG level? Will kids like it? Well, definitely that could be possible. We need to give Thirukural and maybe some other, Sanskrit and other things, but that will not really work at today's level, because today people look at from a very different perspective. Even kids start to think in a different way, and implementing that way would be difficult. So we need to have a curriculum developed for at the LKG level, a structure similar to how we have developed the modern science. We have to pick the axioms and translate that. We need to have modern teachers who sit with, who should be trained in a different area, so that they can develop a curriculum. So with all this can happen only if we have some prescribed books, translated books. So first thing that we want to do is translations. So we need translators and interpreters who need to be paid by the government and by other organizations, alternative organizations. Many of the organizations that teach yoga and other other lifestyle modifications and other educations. So they need to get together and set a budget for the translators and interpreters, and then with the statistics of that, we need to develop curriculum, and they have to set a budget where even the so we have two budgets, one from the government of India and one from uh, the individual organizations, and these organizations pool that money in one through a different organization, and so that these two pool of money or fund is available, so that all the education institute can actually get the grants and do research at PhD level first. And this because we need PhD research scholars who can work with the translators, interpreters to develop a high level research first, so that we can have all the document first translated and research documents are available. And once we have that, we can now we will be able to take that documents, and depending on the level we need a committee who understand both the modern and ancient science. They develop the curriculum with the help of teachers and curriculum builders, so we can employ them. And then they need to develop this syllabus from the LKG level all the way to the PhD level. So that way, we are the current education system will be there, but we need a different board like ancient science board, like CBSE and ICSE. We develop a different board called ancient science board, and this ancient science board should be a mandatory thing for everyone. It could be CBSE, ICSE, or matriculation, state board. It doesn't matter. It need to go parallel to that. So they have a 75% of modern education and 25% in the beginning of ancient education, and then slowly we shift to 50% or even 75% if necessary, and we can keep all the things that are good in the modern science which are useful, and rest can go away, so that way we have we don't have immediately, there's no need for any problems in terms of career and other things. So that's how I think we should develop the curriculum for the whole the schools, and this can take a long time, so we need to have a plan. So it may take maybe even 5 to 10 years, but in order to build this curriculum we really need to work, and we need the funds that need to be released by the government, as well as for this is exclusively for, we know that the funds are released in Ayush and other departments, but not for developing a curriculum. So this curriculum need to be, we need a separate budget for developing a curriculum, and that's very, very important. So India now need to really focus on this, because that is the core where you can sell this product to the world, and that's how India should develop the whole thing, because now we are developing education which can be sold, which is very unique, and people all across the world can learn first, because that's what is distributive justice. We have to give back to the community from where we have taken ideas, knowledge. And second thing is, because of this new knowledge, new not only the soft products, we will have hard products. And these hard products, when you develop these hard products, we can then have patents, or you, like currently we can give it freely, you patent it and give it freely to the world. It doesn't matter, but that's also part of the income that India need to generate from. So Indian, the whatever you call it, GDP, or or something like Bhutan, if you want to have the happiness, then you have to have a different kind of factor we need to use. and we can take all the best principles from different countries and put it together. And India could be a very big role model when we change the education system completely, because Indian ancient education talks about global peace. That's very important. And this education should aim towards teaching little kids all the way to PhD level to aim for global peace, from family peace to global peace. And all the material science and everything should aim towards that. It should be environmental friendly. We have to have green science and technology, and that's how this can change the world. It's not on building roads and building other buildings that will not really help India in any way, or the whole world. Already we are running out of resources. Whole world is running out of resources. So we should take a path that the ancient the sage scientists have put forward, and with that we can really bring a revolutionary change in the education system. So I'm open for any suggestions on this, and I wanted to really bring this matter to the government of India, and where the ministers can involve. I also wanted to invite all the ministers who wanted to discuss about this, because this is we are trying to get an institute here set up with the ancient science education. We have a full curriculum, and we wanted to teach on different areas: ancient agriculture, ancient physics, ancient alchemy, astronomy, ancient math, ancient agriculture, botany, you name it. Everything we have in curriculum, we have experts in that area. But now our question is, we will be developing all this in the United States. And what is India doing right now? You are learning the modern science. And we know that how we can develop this, and many other institutes have already taken the Indian knowledge, ancient Indian knowledge, and they are teaching here, and they are making billions of dollars. And we are really concerned about this, because it's not justice for us to make money and not help the community from where we have taken this. So that's why we want the Indian government to directly involve in this, so that the part of the income that comes through this can go back to the society to develop the society. And that's why I'm here to talk about the the changes that needed to be in the education system that will impact globally. And I'm open for any questions right now.
Hey, Shan, this is Abhinav. Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Abhinav, I could hear you. Yes.
My question is, have we gone into the specifics and developed, let's say, at what level of education? I know you rightly said we need to start with the PhD level, but do we have a plan where we are calling out the very specifics that at this level of education, this particular item should be introduced, and the basis and rationale for that? And you also made some comments like a lot of knowledge has been stolen. So when you call that out, what is the specific thing going on in your mind? And the third thing, you mentioned that today also some people have adopted from Indian Vedic tradition or other of our, you know, let's say scriptures, and they are making billions of dollars out of that. So what are the specific examples? So while I'm very sportive, I want to make sure that our proposal has got a lot of credibility, and
Right.
we need to support that with some facts. And also we need to articulate a very clear plan as to, by inculcating what level of education, at what level, what benefits it would bring to the humanity overall, the world at large, and specifically if we start from India. Why are we saying we need to start from India? Because that is where it was, and it has got lost, and we need to bring it back. I mean, yoga is one example of that. For all over United States, you walk any street, you will find a yoga studio. But how many people in India are doing yoga? Ramdev ji is reviving that tradition. So a lot of there is truth in what you said, but we need to substantiate that with specific examples and some facts.
Yeah, definitely. So what I'm thinking, today I've been, learning from many institutes. You can name it, in the name of functional medicine, for example, Institute for Integrative Medicine. All of them have, in one form or the other, have taken knowledge, and many other institutes here. They have taken the ancient wisdom and they have converted into different format, and they are giving the same thing. They have named it, renamed it because of problems they might be into. So they just renamed it, and Ayurveda and Siddha they have taken. So that's part of it. So now it is time that we know India should realize that we have given freely the yoga to the world. But how do you generate revenue? If I have an Apple computer and I can give it freely to everyone, uh, you know, will you be making money? So how does the Western, which is not good, because in one way other systems, other cultures are making money, and another one, you the Indian culture, if you're not making money out of it for the government's purpose, it's a loss. So there should be something that you need to protect, right? So that the income goes back to the community, so that the community can raise, because there is no other, that is the intellectual property of that society or the community that preserved it. So we really need to see. I'm not worried about that the Western is taking this. If Eastern have developed this properly, we can give it to the Western in a different way. But in Eastern education system, we are spending so much of money to learn the Western system, and Indian system, Western, Indian education system, or this is the traditional knowledge of India, is given free on the other hand, and which is not, it's not a distributive justice. It doesn't make real sense. So this need to happen in both way. You give us freely, I will give you this freely, and that's where distributive justice comes to. And because India need to develop that way, why we need to develop? Because you're investing on something else. India, if investing on something else to make the money, so then we are bringing in all, we are spoiling the entire, similar to how the Western countries are doing now, right? Exploited. So exploitation has happened to a major level, and their awareness is coming even in the Western education system, that we have spoiled so much. So there are people who are protesting this. No, there's, in terms of like animal treatment, or in the natural resources of taking petroleum and things like that. But this modern wisdom is definitely lacking in the Indian system, and we need to incorporate that. So India needs a modern wisdom also, as well as our ancient tradition wisdom. So people do, of course, this is, there is a strategic way we do this. So the reason why we need at a PhD level is because Indian system, even though we have the ancient education system, it is not in a format that we can take it and publish it. For example, we need details about Charaka or Tirumandiram, right? So we need to. There is no, not many authors who have interpreted that in different way, and then they reviewed it. So we need to really change that. and the way that modern people can accept it. And that format is not happened, and therefore first we need to do research, and research is the very important part. And from there only, after when they publish from the research, we can segregate that into different levels starting from LKG. Or if you wanted to change, if you don't want to do the western way, you wanted to have different groups instead of LKG UKG, you could still do that. If you wanted to bring like Gurukulam system, that is fine. But somehow this knowledge need to be interpreted, and at the same time we should understand that not the northern people have not understood the southern, the mind in India. And especially this is in the Tamil culture. And because the Siddha culture is another tradition, and the whole tradition, there are many people who do not believe even in temple systems or anything, but they are also highly scientific. The contributions are highly scientific, and that also need to be incorporated. So there is an abstract science for everything. So there is a abstract science that that can be given as a curriculum too. So that scientific aspect cannot be neglected. So so both, so the you need to have an understanding between these two traditions in principle. Then we go out. So we need to really, and we have to really give the credit for that tradition, or whomever we are taking. If Tamil Nadu need to develop, they will develop with that, with that tradition that they hold. It's a southern tradition, and it's not just Tamil Nadu. It's a Kerala, part of Andhra. Everybody holds that, right? Even part of Sri Lanka. So the whole traditional knowledge we need to look at from two different perspectives. They have a Siddha perspective and an Ayurvedic perspective, even though they all look parallel. But when it comes to interpretations, one could do a Vedic chanting, or one could do a type of meditative technique that will just evolve a person. So both are aiming towards the same thing. So we need to have a balance between these two things when it comes to a curriculum, and that is the bridging the gap. So bridging the gap between first the own traditions in India, then the problem with the theist, atheist, the communism, all this will vanish. Number one. Then we develop that education system into a full system, and then blend with the modern. Blending with modern is nothing, just we need to have a universal world anyways. We are not trying to fight with the west or east. That's, it's not about partition or anything. Just there are many good concepts in the western traditions too. So we can incorporate that and then blend, so that we have an integrated approach. So this, today the integrated approaches are very wrong, because you can have somebody doing a yoga and doing research in a Harvard Medical School, for example, right? And or MIT, that reason, So what all these things does is that you're doing, this is Western perspective of the Eastern tradition. Now that need to change. We need to have a Eastern perspective of that, even the Western knowledge. So that has not happened, and that's called paradigm shift. And paradigm shift, we have looked into all the traditions in the world. Paradigm shift can happen only in India. The reason, because of the number of contents that we have. So there are thousands of sage scientists who lived in India, thousands and thousands. So there is no other tradition who have evolved like that. You can see one in a thousand. If you go to in the West, people know about who is as a sage. They know about sage, like for example Jesus Christ or Muhammad Nabi. There, in the West or Middle East, we can call it. So there are only one, and there is no, after that there was no significant contribution like a Bible or a Quran. Nobody else could do that. So, but in India, thousands, thousands, each one as interpreted, they have attained to a different state of consciousness and have acquired that knowledge, and they developed thousands and thousands of books. All are very unique. So that is why we have statistics, and therefore it is becoming scientific. So because we have statistics for thousands of years, it is scientific knowledge. And now we can give it to the world in a scientific way. So if we can do that, that's our success. Yeah. Yes, Dr. Abhinav. Any other questions?
Um, uh, Thank you for unmuting me. No, that was a great answer. My suggestion is here that everything you said makes a lot of sense, is absolutely valid. Uh, my suggestion would be to assign somebody, from the team. I know your hands will be so full, to take the lead on this and create a proposal for the government. Maybe you already have it. I don't have knowledge of that. But in that proposal, we should very clearly come out with some steps, with a plan, action plan, and we should have a proposal in that we have segregated at what level, what kind of uh, changes we are proposing, and what benefit it would bring, and some basis and rationale for that, right? So I don't know, maybe I'm just being pardon my ignorance about this whole thing, uh, but if you already have that and you want me to review and contribute, I will be glad to. Whatever little time I might have, a little limitation on my bandwidth, but I would be glad to.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We all need to work on this. So the first proposal is to run a conference by the Indian government in 2020. So that would be the first part. Why do we need a conference? In a conference, we can show that we have different, for example, the people who have done research in ancient agriculture. So I will bring a set of scientists who can talk about ancient agriculture, present their papers, or psychology, ancient psychology, or Siddha medicine, or advanced like Shalitandra, or any other field, from ancient science. We're bringing all this together in a 4 to 5 day conference, and then we invite all the organizations, different organization heads, who are protecting, and in one way or the other, maybe you have conflicts. Many people have conflicts with guru systems. People don't like some gurus, some people like those gurus, follow them. All these things are there, but beyond that, we invite people who contributed to ancient science and technology. In one way or the other, they have preserved the ancient knowledge, right? So we invite them and ask them, maybe they have developed, some of them have probably developed something, and we invite them. And then we declare, first thing we declare is the sage scientists. Many of the sage scientists in the past, you start from Agastya, sage scientist Agastya, Tirumular, to Patanjali, to Aryabhatta, to Vallalar, to Vedatri Maharishi, to any recent, Ramana Maharishi. All this we declare them as sage scientists, because all of them have a component. They have a sage component and a scientific component. Both are there. It's an inseparable thing. First thing. And then we so we invite them and declare these people in the organization net. We will also declare them as sage scientists if they have contributed to the scientific component. Scientific component includes psychology, about mind or yoga or other things. They can calm down, they can make changes. That's psychology. Or it could be ancient agriculture, or ancient architecture in Vastu, or it could be Ayurveda, Siddha, any other things. that they have contributed. They all are sage scientists. And we should invite all these Siddha doctors, the Ayurvedic doctors, the other Vastu experts, the translators of ancient literature, including Tamil, some Bengali, or Sanskrit, all different languages. It could be from other traditions too, but oldest language, Sanskrit and Tamil, need to be really celebrated, and we need that because we can get a lot of information from several sage scientists that can be translated. So we bring all these people together on board, and that is where we recognize several people, they are doing alternative healing, and we haven't recorded all those things. And people every day, they heal thousands of people, and nobody knows that they advance cancer and everything. So we need to recognize them and make a small documentary about these people, what they did, and then we should all award these people, what they've done. And the nation should recognize, all media should cover this. And then there is a need, we show that there is a syllabus that we can make, a curriculum can be developed with the available material that was presented here. And with that, we should jointly submit, with all the institutes signed, submit the proposal to the government, so that the government can take necessary actions immediately, because there is no need for anything else, right? It doesn't limit even the opposition party or anybody. Why would it limit? We bring them all on board because this is a national problem. It has nothing to do with politics, right? So it should have been done when IIT was formed. When IIT was formed, if the former prime minister if they had the ancient knowledge, they should have incorporated that ancient knowledge in the system, so that they would have IIT with ancient knowledge as well as modern knowledge. But that didn't happen, right? And we cannot blame anybody, and that's how it was in those days. And they couldn't do help much. But today it's time, and we have all the experts all across the world. If we pull in all the people together, the experts, we can make this possible, right? So the first thing is the calling for the conference, and that is the first step of the proposal. Yeah. Yes. Any other questions?
That is good. When are you proposing this conference, and who will be the organizer?
So the organizers will be, we are bringing World Institute for Scientific Exploration, where there are 30,000 scientists worldwide, Siddha-Vetha Center for Transdisciplinary Studies, and we will involve the Indian government. We can request Indian government to sponsor this, and the people we invite, we can invite all the sage scientists who developed, including people like Dalai Lama and other countries from Bruce Lipton, or people from other countries too, and bring all the sage scientists, the gurus, the present gurus there. Bring also people from other cultures, other tradition, other groups who are contributing. For example, many of the it should go beyond the religion. So there are people who are doing, many Siddha doctors are Islamic based in Tamil. Many Ayurvedic doctors are Christian based in Kerala, and that's how many things are developed. So we have to bring equality to all the different cultural or different tradition we have, put them together, and then we discuss this, and make this happen. So level one would be, we are thinking about June or July next year. So because July most of them fly here, so possibly June is a right time in India. And we have requested if the prime minister will be available. So September, one of our friends, he will be looking at if they have a date on September, the availability of the Prime Minister, and accordingly we can invite other sage scientists and gurus and other Vaidyas together. So there is a huge, requirement of funds and resources, especially human resources, to work with this. So it's a huge task, and we are planning to anyways launch this. So yeah. So yeah, any other questions? So we are going to, yes, yes, doctor. I'm unmuting.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, this is great. So I would encourage you to proceed with your plans and take help whatever you can from this group. And, this is all very positive.
Okay. Thank you. So we are, I'm planning to bring this will, every 15 days, we will have this online webinar, and people from different, I'm going to invite people from the government side and many other, people in the education policy and professors, vice chancellors, all kind of people who are interested in trying to see the education system, So we definitely know about how why skill development and other things where there is a need, and there's a modern scientific need also. But there is, even in the modern scientific way, that we need to make a lot of changes, because the way I have been doing education in India and here as well. So for the past 20 years I'm here, and another 15 years I spent in education system completely in India. So I know the difference between these two education systems, and Indian system doesn't really serve the purpose of an education. It really gives a degree, and it does nothing at all. So first level, even in the modern education system, it is not in a set up in a proper way. So there need to be change in both level, bringing in a new system and also upgrading the current system. So both are needed as well. So that's why I'm bringing in all the people here who are interested in creating a change, and so that we can all work together and create an impact at the government level. So thank you all for the time. So we're just hitting 10:30 right now. I think we have few minutes. I think we have few minutes. So anybody else who want to? I'm trying to unmute. Any questions from anybody? Last question I can take, or suggestions or ideas. Okay. There's no question, we can wrap up for today, but we'll continue on this dialogue once in every 15 days. So which is the next dialogue will be on the 24th of August. Okay, so we will have a panel members. I'm going to invite few panel members, and then I will be asking them different questions, and and depending on what their inputs, we can we will continuously take some minutes, and then we form into a complete proposal. So thank you all for listening to this webinar today. Thank you. Okay, so I just came out of the